Hi guys, from Pax Europiana here from Kyiv, talking about Austria this time, and I will explain you why I'm talking in Kyiv about Austria, because we of course belong together in the European Union in the future. Also I'm in favor of Austria joining NATO and Ukraine as well, and I will explain you why I did this campaign, because it's very important that Austria supports Ukraine in EU, and we have to attack some kind of comfort zone of Austrian neutrality, and this NATO debate is very useful for that. Yeah? Because Austria, unfortunately, in the last 15 years is very deeply problematic. Yeah? After basically 2008-6 already, changed to the left and came in complete standstill. Economic reform, political reform, nothing has happened. And that's very, very problematic, and Austria needs reform. And there was now an important debate about the succession of one of our main, we have two big economic research institutes. It's IHS, and we have several, but it's also WIFI and others. And there is one German economist, he has resigned, and I tweeted on that one. And I explain you a bit what is the problem in Austria and why we have a deeply problematic country, and what it matters for Ukraine. Because first of all, we are not in NATO. And this might not be the biggest issue under normal circumstances, because we are in the EU and we are safe. Yeah? But it has led to this neutrality thinking, which led to a huge Russian pivot. Yeah? Meaning that we accept a lot of money from Russia. And with Russian money comes Russian influence. And so, because of this 26 billion of Russian money in Austria, then they buy think tanks or pay think tanks, they get the politicians, all the ex-prime ministers on Russian corporate boards. And then obviously in the 2014 situation, when the question was what to do with Ukraine, Ukraine opted west, what to do after Maidan, all the Austrians were already basically paralyzed and not ready, because they were already so deeply into this Russian funding issue. And that's of course the problematic situation then. You can no longer act independently, because you're on the one hand paralyzed by your neutrality myth, and on the other hand you are already often controlled by Russian funding. And in this kind of mess we are in Austria, and that's a huge one. That's the complex about NATO, membership of Austria, Ukraine-EU integration, Russian funding, and all these corporate boards like Lukoil of Schussel, the Russian railways of Kern, that's the other prime minister, Gusenbauer's consulting contracts, Mrs. Kneißl, former ballet queen, waltz queen with Putin, and her Rosneft mandate in the very well paid supervisory board of Rosneft. That's all deeply problematic. But there's much more in Austria which is deeply problematic. For example, the high taxation. I run since 20 years to have lower taxation, but you know, the high taxation leads a lot of problems in terms of the middle class mobility, because the rich people, obviously, they pay very little taxes in Austria because they are already in assets and companies. But the ones who are working, and most people have to work for the income, they are excluded from opportunities, and that's deeply problematic. And so this is also a question of economic growth then, and of our equality of opportunities. So taxation really must be lower, because the left obviously says we have to have more higher taxes, because then we can distribute more and create equal opportunities. But opportunities exist already in an open economy, when it's possible with your own income, your own work, to have more of it, you can then develop. I'm very much for the welfare state, don't worry, but for a reasonable funded welfare state. Yeah. So that's important. Yeah. And that's a big problem in Austria. Then comes all this hatred of trade agreements. Yeah. We were the most problematic country in the trade agreements against America, with America, against TTIP, against CETA, Canada, huge political crises, and of course united against Mercosur. These are the three most important cases. Don't want to talk about FDI with Uzbekistan and India. The real crisis is, of course, the big political issues is this anti-Americanism, resulting then in anti-TTIP populism. Imagine with TTIP we could have kept the UK in the EU. Imagine that. And all the current energy crisis, if we had already a common energy market, which could be part of such a trade agreement. Much better. But no, we are even against trade with Canada. Austria has now ratified, Germany not, by the way. So we are deeply problematic. The debate was deeply problematic. And Mercosur, now we had the agreement, and Austria was number one to fight against it. Complete disaster. So these are the three most important on the trade side. Yeah, tax, trade, I said. EU, I said. NATO. Yeah, and then is of course the state-owned industry, which in Austria we have this state holding ÖBAG. I call for 49% of privatization. Why we have such a huge state sector with OMV in the hand of the Russians, with all these electricity giants, with all these major problematic companies. And then we had anyhow the big banking crisis and the complete breakdown 2008 and all the losses of Hypo Alpe Adria. Let's not forget, whatever was it, 17 billion loss, and so on and so on. Yeah. So that's really a big problematic guy. And the guy who is now in charge earns 700,000 euros a year as a state corporate employee. I mean, serving on three boards. Anyhow, this is a whole mess, and my proposal is 49% at the stock exchange. That would be very good. Yeah, then we have this anti-foreigner populism, and now we have a declining labor market and a lack of skilled labor. But still, the task is, look where I am here. I wanted to go here. That's the Vokzal, the Kyiv train station. I will be here now. Yeah, that's deeply problematic as well, this anti-foreigner migrant populism and the lack of labor market on the one hand, and then lack of skilled labor. And that's also very hard to tackle because of the xenophobic racism which is underlying much of Austrian politics. Yeah. So that's that's Rostivania. That's some other institution. Anyhow, good. Yeah, interesting. I also learned some parts of Kyiv which I've not been. I'm walking this morning and talking a bit about Austria and economic reforms. What are the problems? Yeah, I said the state sector, ÖBAG, the labor market, the anti-EU stance, the anti-NATO stance, the Russian money. What is still this peculiar Austrian? Yeah, then you have a lot of problematic regulatory situations, very highly, densely regulated professions. That's complicated to change. It's also very important because we can, for example, only doctors can give vaccinations. No pharmacist can give a vaccination for a flu or for corona. How's that? Or all this kind of protection for pharmacies. You know, we could be much more liberalized also on these professions. But that's of course a complicated topic. Always a turf war. But maybe Corona has woken up some of this. Also on the level of digitalization we got anyhow the big shock, but we are not as bad as Germany on that one. So here I don't want to make a big complaint about this one, because it's of course, the other thing is of course, you know, the funding for such institutions. You always stand in the control of the few old guys. It's always Leitl, Schüssel and Fischler, and they of course don't want to change. They want their change. Their kind of 1980s, what they learned in the think tanks, or eco-social market economy. That's what they wanna have the academic execution of their own ideas. But they don't want any ideological competition or different concept or anything American, neoliberal or liberal. No. Just execution on good economic level of their wishes. And obviously no famous Western German or Western European economist will go to work for Mr. Fischler under such conditions. That's for me very clear. And you don't need to be a Sherlock Holmes or a big economist, which I don't claim to be, yeah? But you just need to be a rational person, and you can understand that this kind of working conditions are not very attractive for somebody who is a serious academic, yeah, or international reformer, which I think I try to be. So, the trade populism, the taxes, the customs, yeah, I mentioned all of that, the privatization issues, the huge state sector, the high level of anti-competitive behavior is very important, yeah, the high level of collusion. It's all a mix, you know, because it's all the same people. The best case to explain it is this Sigi Wolf. He is the pro-Russian business tycoon, not the oligarch, but he just privatized, or he just got a big chunk public subsidies by saving one company. That was good. He doesn't think that he should pay too much taxes. He was resident in Switzerland, and he changed his resident status. He had to pay 12 million taxes on past taxes. You have to earn a lot of money to be so liable. Anyhow, he then didn't want to pay so much, and he made big pressure to appoint basically the head of the tax office. That seems to be a big topic in Austria. Politicians love to appoint who is in charge of the local constituency tax office. Of course, you get information, you can blackmail, you can skim the scream of the rich companies in the party funding, or you can somehow tell them, you can get a promotion, but I can pay less taxes. Look, I'm a little bit of a pariah in Austria because I said, let's have a fair, simple taxation, which the rich also really pay. But that would be the flat tax. So we will have less corruption, less informality, less tax evasion. But no, in Austria it works less. For political reasons, you get in the media when you say you are rich and you want to pay taxes. Very good, you get applause. But then you call the minister or his secretary general, say, this lady puts me high taxes, remove her from the tax office. I have another one, put her, she's compliant, very good, some millions less in taxes. That's the Austrian flat system. You are so powerful that you appoint your own tax inspector and you pay less taxes. That works in Eastern Europe the same. But it's not so fair, not so good system. And that's how it works in Austria. You can check the Sigi Wolf Finanzamt case. It's now, or the other case of Mr. Wöckinger, nice guy by the way, but he also tends, seemingly according to the anti-corruption prosecution office, to like to appoint his own tax inspectors, or just intervenes to help, whatever. But it's of course, look, here's still a lot to do. I see it there. There's a lot of informality as well. Many of my talk would lead to improvement of the situation here in Ukraine. Anyhow, this topic is now about Austria. I talked about trade, taxes, corruption, collusion, competition culture. That's not what Austria is very much about. The idea to be too competitive. Small countries in general know each other because, you know, I also know most of the people if I was 20 years outside. But, you know, not everybody, of course. But, you know, when you are a whole life working in Vienna, in some important position, public administration, think tank business, then you tend to know everybody, or you know them already from family, from the Slava Ikrovina, some intervention. And so situation is that they know everybody, so collusion is very easy to organize. Because when you're a friend with everybody who sits in the state procurement or in the regulatory office, or you know somebody who knows already, and that's in all smaller countries a big issue. And in Austria we are all very friendly people, we are easy to speak with each other, and when you're part of the team, you're part of the family. And that's how it works. And that's also deeply problematic. Why should anybody from Germany, like famous university professor from Germany, or famous from Brussels, who is in the real world out there? Because you see always the transformation, also with Austrian politicians, when they go to the European Parliament and they meet the reality of real competition, of real world politics. Yeah? Yeah, then of course, you know, after some years they come back with a lot of ideas, and normally the Austrian politicians try them not to give them any jobs anymore, similar like with me, because all these international ideas and all these other networks, that's not good. And so these international ideas, not good. All these crazy ideas, probably from America. Yeah, you have always some kind of left-wing and Catholic anti-Americanism. That's always a good mix. And you can always agree that America is responsible for something bad. That's the consensus. Now I'm here at the, because I will, also that's a little bit my brain collection, my brainstorming, because I will also make an article about this one and complain about Austria in the evening. That's my entertainment here in this lockdown or kind of style Corona times. And I will be here now seeing how about my travel plans for the second part of the week. Let's see what I can achieve here. Good. Nice to chat about Austria here in Ukraine. Best regards. I was here 30 years ago at this Vauxhall going from Austria, Kyiv towards Moscow and Petersburg in 1990, celebrating the end of the Soviet Union. I liked it very much. Yeah. Now I'm back here and let's see. Thanks a lot for watching. More to come from Pax Europiana. Bye.